My name is Eric. I'm 45. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I work in logistics, the invisible machinery behind shelves staying full, trucks arriving on time, inventories not drowning companies in their own chaos. It's not glamorous. It's not heroic. But it's predictable. That's what I've always liked. Predictability. You pull one lever, something moves. You don't yell. You don't beg. You act. 3 years ago, I stepped out of that predictability and married Linda. She had a daughter, Emma. I knew what I was signing up for, or at least I thought I did. I wasn't delusional. I didn't think she'd call me Dad. I didn't think we'd have some Disney-style blended family where game night healed all wounds. I just thought, if you're present, if you build something solid, eventually the rest follows. Emma was 14 when I came into the picture. Slouched posture, screen glow constantly reflected in her eyes, earbuds always in, as if the world around her had nothing worth hearing. She didn't hate me. That would have been easier. She just didn't acknowledge me. I was background, like a lamp you forget is on. First, I gave her space. I wasn't trying to replace anyone. Her dad wasn't dead. He just wasn't around. A few calls a year, birthday texts, that kind of absence. So I filled in. Quietly. I figured if I did my part in time, she'd see it. I added her to my insurance without being asked. Bought her first iPhone because her mother's salary couldn't stretch any further that month. Set up the family Spotify, paid for the ad-free YouTube plan because she once sighed about the ads during breakfast. I listened. I took notes. I didn't demand anything back. I paid for her braces. I stayed up late on school nights when she needed help with projects she only remembered at 9:30 p.m. I drove her to swim practice at 6 a.m. on Saturdays while Linda slept in. I signed field trip forms, prepaid her college dual enrollment, upgraded our internet plan because she said the Zoom classes were lagging. I said yes to things before she even asked. I showed up. That first year, I chalked the coldness up to teenage walls. Year 2, I figured we just needed more time. By year 3, I started noticing the way my name disappeared from sentences. Mom got us tickets. Mom picked this. Mom got the hotel. It didn't matter who paid. I was a ghost with a wallet. But I kept giving. Because that's what a man does. He provides. And maybe that was my mistake. Thinking provision would earn place. This past Christmas, I decided to go all out. Linda was busy with final grades and report cards. Emma had finals. I took care of everything. Booked the bakery cake in November. Drove to 3 different stores to get the specific boots Emma wanted, beige, not white. I ordered wrapping paper in bulk, tracked the shipments, stayed up until 2 a.m. On the 23rd, assembling the new vanity she'd circled in the catalog. I even swapped out the porch lights with warmer bulbs so the pictures would look better. I wanted to believe that maybe this year would be the year the ice thawed. That 3 years of service, patience, and invisible sacrifices would finally pay off in a moment. Maybe a smile. Thank you. Something. The morning came. I brewed the coffee. Lit the cinnamon candles. Put on the Christmas playlist I knew Emma liked. She came downstairs in that disinterested way of hers. Sat on the couch with her legs curled under her. Phone already in hand. Didn't look up. Linda kissed her forehead. I got a nod. Gifts were opened. She liked the boots. Liked the perfume. Liked the iPad. Didn't say much, she never did. But I watched her closely. I watched her expression when she opened the last box. The one I'd made sure to wrap just right. She peeled the paper off slowly, saw the new Apple Pencil inside, and turned to her mother. "Oh my God," she said, smiling for the first time that morning. "This is perfect. Tell him thanks." I didn't flinch. I'd grown used to the pronoun games. But then she laughed, looked right at me, still smiling, and said, "He's just the guy who buys stuff." And Linda, my wife, laughed too. She laughed. Like it was harmless. Like it wasn't a gut punch delivered on Christmas morning in the house I paid for. Under the roof I maintained, surrounded by gifts I had picked, purchased, and wrapped while they slept. I didn't say a word. I just stood up, walked past the discarded ribbons and crushed boxes, into my office, closed the door, sat down, opened my laptop, Clicked into our joint checking account. Transferred everything into a private one. Closed the shared credit card. Then reached for my wallet. Pulled out the card Emma had used all month. For Starbucks, Uber rides, makeup, and Spotify Premium. I slid it into the shredder. Watched the pieces curl and vanish. It made no noise. No fanfare. No smoke or sparks. Just gone. Outside the office door, I could hear the music still playing. Laughter. Wrapping paper tearing. The sound of a family I had built. Celebrating without me. I stayed in that office for a long time. Pulled up transaction history. Reviewed every charge from the last 2 months. 86 purchases. Not a single one discussed with me. Not one thank you. Just need after need after need. Emma's new leggings. Linda's salon trip. The brunch with her coworkers. The dog's vet visit. None of it consulted. Just expected. I scrolled through the list like I was reading my own eulogy. This wasn't love. It wasn't family. It was a financial arrangement with silence as the currency. I think that's what broke me. Not the money. Not even the laughter. It was the way I'd been erased, yet kept alive in the background. Like a ghost that pays the bills. No yelling. No confrontation. Just clarity. Something inside me switched off. That soft, bending part that wants to be included. It shut down like a light in an empty room. And I didn't walk back out that day. I didn't rejoin the celebration. I let them enjoy the holiday I had funded, without the man who funded it. The next morning, Linda walked into the kitchen barefoot, rubbing sleep from her eyes. I was already at the table, not drinking coffee, just sitting there, quiet, awake in a way I hadn't been in years. She yawned, turned on the kettle, and said it like it was nothing. The internet's down again. I nodded, didn't answer, just stared at the window while the wind pressed softly against it. She opened her phone, tapped, waited. Netflix isn't working either, she said, a little sharper now. Do we need to reset the router? I turned to look at her. Maybe ask the guy who buys stuff. Her hand froze midair. For a second, she didn't move, just blinked, as if replaying the words to make sure she'd heard me right. Then her lips parted, like she was about to say something. Offer a joke, a correction, anything to soften what hung in the air, but nothing came. She turned away. I watched her walk over to the router, fiddle with wires, tap buttons like it was a mechanical problem and not the first domino finally tipping over. A minute later, Emma came downstairs. AirPods in, face blank, same hoodie from yesterday. She muttered without looking up. Mom, the Wi-Fi's acting up again. I didn't say a word. By the time the toast popped, her streaming apps were locked out. YouTube, canceled. Amazon Prime, gone. Hulu subscription expired. Even the Apple family share had been revoked. She tapped, refreshed, tapped again. Finally said it louder. What's going on? Nothing's working. Still, I stayed quiet. An hour later, Linda came into my office. The door was open. She leaned against the frame like she didn't know if she was allowed in anymore. Did you change something? I didn't look up from my laptop. I was reviewing our household spreadsheet, now modified. A single sheet. Every subscription. Every grocery run. Every piece of tech. Tuition deposit. Dental visit. Cosmetic product. All the invisible glue that kept the household running. I had printed it the night before. Taped it to the fridge like a goodbye letter. At the bottom, in bold font, this account is closed. Good luck with your new plan. She saw it that afternoon. I heard her footsteps stop, then shuffle backward. A quiet, stunned pause. The sound of paper being pulled from a fridge door. Then the silence that followed realization. 2 days passed. Emma slammed her door twice. Tried to order something from Sephora. Card declined. Texted Linda from upstairs like I couldn't hear her muttering. He's seriously doing all this over one joke? But this wasn't revenge. Revenge is loud. Ugly. This was clean. Clinical. Precise. I wasn't retaliating. I was retreating. From being a provider to being nothing. They thought I was reacting to words. But it wasn't what Emma said. It was what Linda didn't. The laugh. That tiny, flicked match tossed into a dry forest. There are things a wife should never allow. One of them is watching your husband be humiliated in his own house and doing nothing. So I stopped doing everything. The thermostat was next. I turned it down to 61. Not enough to freeze. Just enough to feel. Why is it so cold in here? Emma asked from the couch, pulling her hoodie tighter. I didn't answer, just looked up, then went back to reading. Later that night, Linda tried to bridge the silence with sweetness. She made pancakes, blueberry my favorite. I didn't touch them. Emma washed a dish. For the first time in half a year, I heard her standing at the sink, scrubbing something that wasn't hers. She had noticed. They both had. No more takeout magically appearing on the table. No more groceries stocked without lists. No more gas cards, no more Amazon packages, no more Uber Eats midnight cravings. No more warmth. No more Wi-Fi. No more me. They didn't say anything direct. Not yet. But there were glances. Lingering looks. The sense that something had shifted permanently, and no one knew how far it would go. That weekend, Emma asked, "Can I use your card too?" No. That was all I said. The silence that followed her question was bigger than the word itself. She stormed upstairs. Door slammed. Linda sighed. Sat across from me at the dinner table. "You've made your point." "No," I said. "I've made a decision." She stared at me like I was speaking another language. "You're going to punish us forever?" "No," I said again. "I'm just done volunteering for disrespect." She looked like she wanted to say it wasn't like that. That it was just a joke. That kids don't understand what they say. That I was overreacting. But she didn't say any of it. Because even she knew this wasn't about Emma. Not really. This was about a man who spent 3 years building something no one else believed in. This was about 3 years of giving and being met with indifference. This was about the look on her face when her daughter mocked me, and she chose amusement over alliance. This was about every time she didn't defend me. Every time she asked me to be patient, to wait, to keep sacrificing because Emma's still adjusting. This was about standing in a house I paid for and realizing I was the only one who thought I belonged in it. After dinner, I turned off the lights, left the kitchen in shadow, didn't clean up, didn't wipe counters or rinse dishes or take out the trash. That had always been me. Not anymore. That night, the house creaked more than usual. Old beams settling. Or maybe it was just the echo of a man finally stepping out of his role. Linda came to bed later than usual. Lay beside me without touching. The air between us was cold. I didn't move. She whispered, "You're scaring her." I said, "She doesn't get to be comfortable while I'm invisible." Neither of us slept. The next morning, she tried another smile over breakfast. Made small talk. Weather. News. Nothing about money. Nothing about the spreadsheet taped to the fridge. Emma came down. Avoided my eyes. Poured cereal. Sat at the far end of the table like we were strangers forced to share space. That's when it really hit me. I'd spent 3 years paying to exist in a house where no one even wanted me present. They just wanted my silence. My service. But not me. Not the man. Not the husband. Not the stepfather. Just the benefits of my presence without the respect. So I gave them what they truly wanted. Absence. Not physical. Not yet. Just the withdrawal of service. The removal of ease. The dismantling of every invisible hand that kept their life soft. Emma tried to post a TikTok later that day. Couldn't connect. Linda tried to reorder mascara. No payment option. The list grew. No gas cards. No groceries unless they were in my cart. No heating above 62. No reminders for appointments. No dentist confirmations. No prescription pickups. No calendar syncing. No Netflix. No Disney Plus. No buffer. No man behind the curtain. For the first time, they saw what life looked like without the one person they dismissed. And still, I said nothing. I didn't explain. I didn't warn. I didn't yell. I just stopped. And that silence, that refusal to re-engage, was louder than anything I could have screamed. 3 weeks. That's how long it took before the quiet became undeniable. No more music drifting from Emma's room. No shows playing in the background. No new deliveries on the porch. No fresh bags from Ulta. No cold brew cups in the trash. The home grew still, like something had been exorcised, and all that was left was the structure. Naked, silent, waiting to be filled. They didn't know how to fill it. Emma tried, at first, to recreate the rhythm on her own. She started cooking ramen. Laundry, too. I heard the machine spin for the first time without my involvement. I let it happen. I didn't offer help. Didn't adjust the settings when she got them wrong. Didn't step in when she used too much soap. I let her figure it out. Let her sit in the friction I'd always absorbed. Then came the whispers. Linda opened the utility bill and blinked like it was written in a foreign language. She asked me if I'd paid it. I said no. She asked if I was going to. I said, "Is it my house?" She didn't respond. Later, I heard her ask Emma to Venmo her half for groceries. Emma laughed. A short, bitter sound. Said she didn't have it. Said maybe the guy who buys stuff should come out of retirement. Linda said nothing. A week later, Emma tried to order something online, shoes or skincare, something trivial but essential in her world. She entered the old card details. Declined. Again. Declined. She came into the kitchen, holding her phone like it was broken. "Did you freeze my card?" I didn't look up from my coffee. "It's not yours. It was never yours. It was mine. And it's gone now." Her voice rose. "You're really doing this over a comment?" "No," I said. "I'm doing this because I finally heard you." Linda stepped in. Said I was being extreme. Said Emma was a child. I looked at her, really looked. "She's 15, I said. "Old enough to know what humiliation sounds like. Old enough to see you laugh when it happens. Old enough to understand that silence isn't neutral. It's permission." She said I was twisting things. I said I was just remembering them accurately. From then on, everything slowed down. The car Emma used stayed parked. No gas money. The Wi-Fi stayed throttled. Prepaid data cards burned out fast. I heard them arguing about it in the living room. Whispers turned sharp. Linda asking why Emma spent so much streaming. Emma yelling back that it wasn't her fault. That he's the one acting like a psycho. I stayed upstairs. I didn't need to be in the room anymore. I had already left it in every way but physically. I was the scaffolding they had torn down while still standing on it. And now they were starting to feel the fall. One night, I walked into the kitchen and found Linda staring at the fridge. Not the contents, the spreadsheet. Still taped there, curling at the edges, untouched. Her hand hovered near it like she wanted to tear it down. I stood beside her, said nothing. After a long moment, she asked, "Is this really permanent?" I didn't answer. She wasn't owed a forecast, only a record. She turned to me, tears pooling at the corners of her eyes, and said, "I thought you were okay with things, because you didn't say anything." I didn't flinch. "That's the mistake," I said. "You thought silence meant peace. It doesn't. Silence is the last stage before retreat." She nodded slowly, like a student who just learned the difference between listening and hearing. But it was too late. I hadn't asked for apologies. I hadn't asked for emotion. I'd only ever asked for one thing: recognition. For the man who made the dental appointments. For the man who remembered Emma's allergy to walnuts. For the man who paid for the tutor after Emma bombed her math midterm and didn't tell anyone. For the man who didn't expect to be called dad, only respected as a man building a life around someone else's ruins. But I had never been a man in this house. Just a wallet with hands. And hands can close. Emma tried to be civil after that. She started saying, "Good morning," awkwardly, like she was forcing herself through a script she hadn't rehearsed. She washed dishes again, offered to vacuum, left the bathroom clean. Too late. I watched her efforts with the detachment of a landlord inspecting a tenant's final weeks. I had already decided to evict myself. Linda asked if I wanted to talk. I said no. She tried again the next night, this time with wine, soft lighting, her voice lower, more apologetic. "I miss how things were," she said. I shook my head. "You miss how easy things were." She didn't argue, because she knew. She had let Emma believe that I was optional, that I was infrastructure, not family, that she could draw a line between herself and me, and Linda wouldn't erase it. What they didn't understand was that I believed in family. I believed in chosen loyalty, not inherited obligation. Emma's father sent 2 texts last year, both misspelled. One gift, a necklace she never wore. But she cried when he missed her birthday dinner. She excused it. He's busy. He's trying. He said sorry. But I, the one who bought the dinner, made the reservation, lit the candles, I was just there. The man who buys stuff. Until I stopped. Now the gaps were showing. They couldn't heat the house properly. Couldn't refill prescriptions without juggling debit cards. Couldn't book Emma's spring trip because Linda's card was maxed and mine no longer existed in the system. They were still polite, mostly. But that wasn't warmth. That was necessity. The way you nod at a landlord so your rent doesn't go up. One afternoon, Emma came home from school. Coat zipped to her chin, lips blue. "It's freezing," she muttered. "Can we please turn the heat up?" I met her eyes. For once, she didn't look away. "I'm not heating the mood anymore," I said. She didn't understand at first. Then she did. Her mouth opened, closed. She went upstairs. Didn't slam the door this time. That's how I knew it was working. Not out of spite, but out of recognition. Real consequences. Real boundaries. Real absence. The house got quieter. Not the angry quiet, the hollow kind. The kind that lives in empty churches and dead phone lines. They didn't know what to do with it. And I didn't offer them a map. I didn't return to the role they were waiting for. That part confused them the most. They thought this was a phase. Tantrum. A correction that would end once the lesson was learned. They thought I'd eventually soften, step back into the space they'd cleared for me. The quiet provider. The man who fixes what breaks and funds what's wanted. But I had already stepped away. Not from the house. Not from the marriage. From the position. Linda tested it first. She asked questions that sounded reasonable on the surface. Could I help her budget? Could I look over the insurance paperwork? Could I maybe front the money for Emma's school trip and they'd figure it out later? I didn't answer right away. I let the questions hang in the air, unanswered, like checks written to a closed account. Emma tried a different approach. She didn't apologize, not directly. She just started orbiting closer, sitting in the same room, asking neutral questions, commenting on the weather. Once, she even said, "That movie was actually good," about something I'd recommended months earlier. I nodded. That was all. They were learning a new version of me, and it made them uneasy. I wasn't angry. I wasn't cold. I wasn't punishing them. I was unavailable. Linda finally asked the question she'd been circling for weeks. "So, what are we now?" I thought about it longer than she expected. "I'm here," I said, "but I'm not sponsoring anyone's life anymore." She frowned. "That's not a marriage." I met her eyes. No, what we had wasn't one either. That hurt her. I could tell. But it was true. A marriage doesn't let one partner be undermined in their own home. It doesn't laugh when respect is stripped away. It doesn't survive on the assumption that silence equals agreement. She tried to negotiate after that. Suggested counseling. Suggested rules. Suggested we all start fresh. I didn't reject the ideas. I just didn't commit to them. Because something fundamental had shifted. I had seen myself clearly for the first time in years. Not as a victim, not as a hero, but as a man who had overextended himself into invisibility. I had believed that consistency would earn me standing. That sacrifice would translate into belonging. I was wrong. Belonging isn't built on tolerance. It's built on acknowledgement. Emma eventually asked me why I was still there if I wasn't going to be part of things. I answered her honestly. Because leaving loudly would have made me the villain, I said. Staying quietly lets everyone see what I actually did. She didn't like that answer, but she understood it. The house never returned to what it was. Couldn't. The ease was gone. The shortcuts were gone. The illusion that someone else would always absorb the weight had collapsed. They learned to plan, to count, to ask before assuming. But what they didn't get back was access. Access to my effort. Access to my foresight. Access to the parts of me that once anticipated needs before they were spoken. Those parts were retired. Sometimes Linda still watches me like she's trying to remember who I used to be. Sometimes Emma looks at me with something like regret, though I don't mistake it for remorse. Regret wants the past back. Remorse understands why it's gone. I don't explain myself anymore. I don't defend the decision. I don't narrate my boundaries. I just live inside them. The Wi-Fi was eventually reconnected, in Linda's name on her plan. The house is warmer now. The subscriptions came back slowly, selectively. But respect? That didn't come with the reconnection. Respect is slower, heavier. It requires memory. You don't restore it with convenience. You don't unlock it with effort after the fact. And you don't earn it by pretending nothing happened. I didn't destroy this family. I stopped holding it together alone. And in doing so, I learned something that took me 45 years to understand. Being needed is not the same as being valued. And love that only exists when you provide isn't love at all. It's dependence. So I stayed. Not as a wallet. Not as a buffer. Not as the guy who buys stuff. Just as a man who finally stepped back far enough to be seen. And I'll leave you with the question they never asked themselves until it was too late. Was I wrong to stop paying for a place where I wasn't allowed to belong? Or would you have done the same?